Welcome to episode 4 of The Equity Partner. I have the pleasure to have Dr. Jamie Williams join me today. And I'm going to give a brief introduction on Dr. Jamie Williams and highlight some of his accomplishments. Dr. Jamie Williams has a doctorate in education, a master's in mass communications, and he also has a list of other outstanding accomplishments. He served as an athletic director, started an athletic program at the Academy of Art University. He's written 2 books, had a 9-year career in media as a sports analyst, a writer, and a host. He's also served on several sports leadership and African-American leadership councils. All on the field, Dr. Williams played 12 seasons in the NFL as a tight end. He won a Super Bowl championship with the San Francisco 49ers, and he was NFL Man of the Year in 1992 and 1987. His accomplishments both on and off the field are superior, and I'm extremely thankful to have you join with me and the Equity Partner and everyone watching today. So thank you for joining. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and we'll get started just to have you tell a brief, just tell a little bit about yourself, your personal background. So those who don't know you kind of can get to know you.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Jeff, for having me on. And this is really awesome what you're doing. And you got my background pretty well, but you left out the part about the comic books because
that's right.
I'm a huge Marvel comic fan. Have been since my older brothers got me started back when I was a type growing up in Iowa. So that's kind of where my background starts. My family was part of the Great Migration of blacks from south to north because of factory jobs. So I was born in Florida. I was about 3, moved to the Midwest right on the Mississippi River in Davenport, Iowa. And actually there was a lot of Southerners that were there. All my buddies were from Georgia, Mississippi, Arkansas. And but again, there was John Deere, Alcoa, Ralston Purina, all these factories there that kept people employed. The big thing though is I grew up where I didn't have to pay for private education. Mm-hmm. Education in Iowa was great. You know, you heard of the Iowa Basic Skills Test. I mean, we were all my buddies I grew up with turned out to be pretty intelligent, but it was Iowa, so there was nothing to do but go out and look for bullfrogs and race each other and play baseball. You know, and so we grew up around a lot of sports, and it was a great opportunity. Now, neither one of my parents were laborers, so they thought that was where I was going to go. Like, if you can get a good job at John Deere, it was a good deal, right? And but education and the teachers and coaches that I had, including some very key African-American males who said, you can be this. And they kind of turned my head toward the horizon. You can go there. You can go beyond this. And so I ended up getting a really good education, ended up being an All-American in 3 sports, and which I didn't really know what that meant, right? Because neither one of my parents graduated from high school. So college wasn't even, my mom used to say, why do they keep sending you letters? You know, we can't afford that, you know? And I said, yeah, but it's from USC, you know? Yeah. It's Notre Dame, so what should I do with this, right? So I ended up going to the University of Nebraska, playing football there. Coach Osborne, it's kind of funny, he would come into the neighborhood and everybody was like, you know, we just saw that man on TV, right? So it was a big thing for my community as well. And growing up right around halfway around the block was another Husker and future 49er, Roger Craig. And so same thing, Roger was born in Mississippi, family moved to Iowa. And so he's a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame, but if nobody remembers number 33 for the 49ers. So I went on to play at Nebraska. I felt like, when I look back in retrospect, it felt like I was Harry Potter, you know, like living in a little closet, right? And then I go to Hogsworth, and I'll go to this place. I had no idea, you know, what a dormitory were, or going to the bursar's office, or, you know, why these classes are on these different buildings, right? But I was a quick study, and I I went to school as an engineer, but ended up getting into journalism based on one speech class that I took. And I ended up graduating in broadcast journalism. Back when it was, you had to learn radio, TV, and film. So I'm playing against Oklahoma, then running around with my classmates, you know, shooting on Super 8 or Super 16 film. And it was very dynamic, you know. And of course, at that time, Nebraska was like Alabama football, and we were playing for national championships and things like that. Great experience. Then went off to the pros. Started my career in Houston with the Oilers, and that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm very candid with you. You know, I'll be candid with you. I'm gonna be real with you.
Okay. All right.
Go there. Now I grew up in Iowa, right? And then I get down there, and there were Huxtables that were everywhere. You know, the Bill Cosby Show, right? The Cosby Show.
That's right.
That type of lifestyle was everywhere in Houston. You didn't see that in the Midwest. You know, you didn't see Black folks living in mansions, and, you know, and they're the baker, and they're the doctor, and they're the dentist. And that was, I remember I would leave practice, and I would just drive around in this neighborhood, this Black neighborhood in Houston called Third Ward. And over by TSU and University of Houston, that's where Beyonce grew up, and Debbie Allen, and all those people. And it's also where I eventually met my wife. And it was amazing just to drive around and see a community like that, you know, that it was the entire ecosystem, you know, from lower class to middle class to upper class. So I had a great time there as a young man, you know, growing up single in Houston, you know, and it was awesome. And then Bill Walsh brought me to the 49ers, and won Super Bowls, and it was great. It was great being out, you know, near the water, and up and down to LA, up and down the coast. It was just a new thing. Now from there, from football, we traveled abroad a lot. You know, we played overseas and started getting a global perspective of a lot of things. I always knew I wanted to get more education. So while I was playing, I didn't tell anybody other than the general manager that I was going to get my master's. And so I went and got my master's in journalism and film, and I would leave practice and go to class. And I just, you know, you got to rationalize things. I mean, why would you do that when you got to play, you know, Patriots that weekend, or the Bears or something? And I'd say, well, you know what? If I go sit 3 hours in a class and learn something new, I get a chance to unplug.
That's right.
From the you know, the warrior stuff, right? And learn something different. Go back to practice, plug back in, and guess what? It didn't stop me from blocking the linebacker, like really good. So
what made you? I mean, that balance between, you know, being a professional athlete and also being in school at the same time. I mean, what was your motivation to say, I can do this at the same time, and I can be successful both on the field and in the classroom? Because that's an odd mix. You know, some people do it after, you know, do it on the off season, or do it, go to school after they've completed their career. What was the driving factor that made you do it during?
Well, I go back to this, and you know, if you see any other interviews, I'll bring up Iowa. It was that mentality. You know, you say you're a product of your environment. That's so true. And when I was there, everybody got together. Wherever you sat on the economic tree, it didn't matter what neighborhood. You know, it was small communities. We always got together, and you know, and people would tell you things. I'm in 4th grade or 5th grade, and a teacher says, "Hey, you know, I really like that paper you wrote. Why don't you read this book? You know, you like, you know, something from Steinbeck." And I'd read Steinbeck in 5th grade, you know, And then I bring it back, and she says, I got another one for you. And it was Faulkner. And then she gave me another one, James Baldwin. And I would read it, and I kind of escaped into that area. And as I went through my progression, I was always in the class that, like the AP class, you know what I'm saying? Like the only athlete in the class.
That's right.
But I had people that gave me perspective. They'd always say, you can still hang with your friends, after class. It's not going to take, you can still go play ball. You can still do the things you do, but you need to be challenged. And so we're going to put you in this upper level math class. And then I met new friends, right? And so I always had that mentality as I went through. Now, I ran with the brothers, you know what I'm saying? I was an alpha male, you know what I'm saying? And I had to get into the arena, right? But again, it's that thing about unplugging, being diversified in your thoughts and how you live. Like right now, I go out and plant lilies and geranium and all. I do that stuff, but I'm still that guy that used to chase linebackers and catch the ball.
That's right.
So I will tell you this, that I think athletes leave a lot in their back pocket, in their abilities. I never wanted to do that. I always say, there's other things I'm interested in.
That's right.
I want to know about the Egyptians. Why does it hurt me to pick up a book on the Egyptians? And how's that going to change, who I am with my friends?
That's right.
Other enhancement. So that's why I said, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm not telling anybody because I don't need the negative comments. I'll just wait until it's at the end. And so I didn't tell my athletes, my teammates, until I was in my final semester.
And that's a tremendous accomplishment to do that at the same time. I think LeBron James' statement about being more than an athlete probably resonated with more people than he knew when he said it, because there are people that have other attributes, they have other things they're interested in, and they can get off the field and still have success. And so one question I had as well is when you think back as a youth on the field, who shaped you to be who you are today?
I would say, you said on the field?
Well, just as a youth in general, just when you think about just your not only your abilities on the field, but also just as a person, who kind of shaped your development?
I would say my older brother, Dennis.
Okay.
Was he was more of a father figure than anybody. He was that classic. I was a classic kid brother, and he was a classic big brother. I mean, he took a lot of pride in that, and really, had time for me, and would tell me stories. And for a young person, story means a lot because of the metaphors and the images, and you remember it, right?
That's right.
And Dennis was very good at that. And Dennis was the fastest kid in the neighborhood, the toughest kid in the neighborhood, and he was extremely smart. And I felt like he was a better athlete than me, but he told me, "You're going to be a better athlete." and I was like, "I don't think so," but I trusted him, right? And he told me this, and I tell you, it still behooves me today of his wisdom as a 8th grader or 10th grader, and I'm in elementary. I'm 5 years behind him, and I look back like, how did he even know that? He taught me how to compete. He said, "Jamie," he says, "don't just set one goal." He says, "Get a bunch of them, and when you finish your goal, what's the next one? Go take that as your goal, and then when you finish that one, go look for another goal." And he says, "You know what? When you compete, this is how you compete. But just don't compete there on the field. When you get in the classroom, get that answer.
Compete the same way.
Get that answer." You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And the kids who are rich and the kids who think they're better than you, show them what you know. Compete there. I'm like, okay, because I like, if I did it, he'd take me to a movie, right? So he said, if you do this, I'll take you to a movie. I'm like, "Boo, I'm in there working." So, and that's real talk, man. And I carried it with me forever.
Yeah, I think that competitive spirit, just both on and off the field. If you're able to do both, it can have an amazing. It allows you not to just be stuck in one place. It allows you to kind of transition to different parts of your life, which it seems like you have. Be able to compete well. So,
Well, you made one good conversation. Let me interrupt real quick. Is
Mhm.
that you brought up LeBron James? Okay, I grew up in a kind of a different era where we had a lot of those.
Mhm.
We had a lot of LeBron James that show up on TV with a tie and suit and talk
Mhm.
about issues outside of sports. And those were Jim Brown and Lou Alcindor,
Mhm.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Muhammad Ali. And
Mhm.
these guys were so talented and so articulate.
Mhm. No, and I completely agree with you. I mean, when you think back about different athletes that have done it over time, he's a product of all those athletes, and I think
No
that,
question.
I think that it's always good to hear examples of people that can, not just be great athletes, but also just be great people, or great businessmen, and I think they need to be highlighted, and so. That's why I'm glad to have you on here today to kind of talk about your experiences. Now when you transitioned from college to the NFL, just talk a little bit about all of the things you didn't know that you had to learn quickly, and then also how that has impacted your success.
Well, again, growing up in the Midwest, there's not a bunch of skyscrapers and celebrities and things like that. And I remember before a game, I think we were playing Oklahoma or somebody. Coach took us to a movie. We always went to a movie the night before the game, and we saw Urban Cowboy with John Travolta and Deborah Winger. And I remember sitting there with the guys, and everybody's passing the good and plenties and the milk duds, and and I really got into the movie because I'd never seen anything like Houston.
Mm-hmm.
These skyscrapers and John Travolta gets his new girlfriend. She's got a high rise overlooking downtown Houston. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, and I was just so amazed of this place, right?
Yeah.
And we leave the movie, and I remember telling a friend, he brings this up, a teammate, he says, I need to go see this place, Houston.
Mm-hmm.
He brings that up all the time. That I said that when we came out of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, a few years later, I had a high rise overlooking downtown Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, I had an apartment, a condo overlooking, and I couldn't believe it. So the thing was, I had to learn the sophistication of the city,
Mm-hmm.
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate that I was a big guy and I was an athlete and I had people around me, but still I was observant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another Iowa thing, just observe first.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had to learn. I had to learn, now I have a contract. Now it's not, I'm not working at the meatpacking place over the summer or the steel mill. I actually had a contract for what I was doing and making more money than at that time than I could see. I mean, they're really making it now, but didn't really know what that meant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And trying to come to terms with that because all of a sudden I had friends I didn't know were my friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So pseudo friends,
Yes.
right? And so that was another hill to climb.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as an athlete, the chicks like you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And so there's also good, bad, and ugly in that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to come of age. The one thing that I did, and I would recommend this to any young person, is you have to find some mentors. You
Yeah.
have to find a Gandalf, an Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Mm-hmm.
some Master Yoda who's been there and can tell you what you can't see,
Mm-hmm.
explain the invisible to you. So
Mm-hmm.
that
And if you were explaining some stuff to a young person coming up that aspires to be a professional athlete, what advice would you give them that you think helped you during that time?
I would say open yourself up to what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the things that you don't know, go search it out. You know, be a renaissance man. God already threw some sprinkle dust on you to make you run fast and jump higher.
Mm-hmm.
So pick up some history. The one thing I would do is I would definitely tell them, just start with history.
Mm-hmm.
Just start with history, and they will find themselves in history.
Mm-hmm.
They will find people like them. They will find people that didn't know but then became. I mean, you think about Alexander the Great, who conquered the known world, at 23.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But he also studied from Aristotle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you'll start finding, things that says, hey, there's more you can do.
Yeah.
There's more you should know.
Mm-hmm.
And don't limit yourself to just hanging out with your boys.
Yeah.
You hang out with your boys, but be enhanced.
That's
and I do think there should become what I call an enlightenment
mm-hmm.
for athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now they're all kind of, a lot of them, not all, in this little lane, like this little herd that's doing everything the same. And then they're not taking advantage of that free scholarship, not taking advantage of access. I mean, I'll tell you, I got you in the pros. I mean, even some big colleges, you get introduced to CEOs,
mm-hmm. bankers,
doctors, everybody in the professions that you could go to. You get introduced to them. Mm-hmm. So talk to them. Yeah. Ask them questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think being, we talked about it a little bit on our last episode. Being curious is a good thing. So asking questions is very important because you never know, how that person might impact you or the answer you might receive, how it could affect your life or some of the decisions you make. And so when you think about your decisions that you made, were there any challenges that you had, when you transitioned into the NFL that you wish you could have done a little differently?
That's a beautiful question. And the answer is absolutely. Man, I got a scarce tissue I can show you. It was a lot of times you just got to get it introduced to them. That's kind of what I'm a little bit bothered by, the mentality of coaches today who have the most access
mm-hmm.
to these athletes.
Yep.
They're not great storytellers. And I remember having this conversation with Bill Walsh probably about a year before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that kind of talked me into getting into athletic administration.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, because there's not good storytellers. They're not people who really care. They say they care, mm-hmm. but they care more about their elevation, their self-interest, their contract. You're my vehicle to get there.
That's
right?
Yep.
To these young athletes. And that wasn't what it was like in the old days. Mm-hmm. If you think about that coach in your neighborhood that's been there 40 years,
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And he also teaches geometry, and that's kind of gone the way of the dinosaur. I mean, we got these mercenary coaches,
mm-hmm.
mercenary administrators, and sometimes the young people where they need that information, they need somebody to put an arm around them. You need to tell a kid, hey, walk with me. Let me tell you something about you bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a little bit of my frustration right now. That's why I say what you're doing is what the guys before you, the guys I grew up on, did, but in a different way. They didn't have Zoom, but they made sure they got to you and got the message to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is an important statement, just to pass information down, because again, information is valuable. There is a value to that information that if somebody has experienced something before you, that they can give you so you don't make the same mistake.
Can I add something real quick before I lose that thought?
Yeah.
Is that um, I know your audience is athletes, but there's one thing I got it because my dissertation and my master thesis are on the black male, and that's why I say that young guys need to learn history. They need to read history beyond the U.S. That a lot of them don't realize the U.S. is one of the youngest countries on the planet at 243 years. Egyptians was a dynasty longer than anything BC. Okay, all right, 4,000 years. I mean, I sit there and I go, the Chinese are, 3 millennia civilization. There's so much information, so many things out there that sometimes we end up drinking the wrong Kool-Aid, or we drink the Kool-Aid. And for the kids growing up today, the world is their oyster. It really is.
Yeah.
And sometimes there is it's like know thyself, right?
That's right.
But you also got to know, it's layers, like know thyself, that person, James, who's James, right? Then know what shell you're in. Okay. If you ask a kid, tell me about a black man, who is he? Man, you're going to get a lot of different answers, or you get a big question mark above their head, and until you understand who that person is and who that person is in the country and globally, it's going to be hard for you to maneuver. You're going to run into walls, you're going to do things like that. And I think that's so important because the black male is the least studied race, gender. The least.
Yeah. And growing up, one of the things that personally I like to do was study Black history because again, there are a lot of people that, and one of the reasons why we started this was, or why I started this was because there needs to be more images of African American males or diverse males or males and females, where somebody can see and say, hey, that's somebody I aspire to be, or they've had experiences similar to mine. I feel like I can relate to that person. And so I think that's a great point, just thinking about history and how important it is to help shape somebody or the next generation's career or their personal life or whatever it might be. So
I think the thing is, again, America's history is young and we get kind of trapped in that. No, you got to go beyond that. If I sit with a kid and says, hey, tell me about the Greeks, tell me about the philosophers, the Greeks. Who did the Greeks learn from? Well, they learned from the Egyptians, all right? Okay, tell me about the Romans. Do you know anything about their empire? When did they stop being a republic? Do you know about the Carolingians? Why is Charlemagne? What was his importance to where we are now? I mean, things like that, when they start understanding that our time is really small compared to time, and you don't have to be trapped in the 7 blocks you grew up on. You do not have to.
That's exactly right. I completely agree with that. What when you think about life after sports, because majority of when I look at your biography, your athletic career was great. But at the same time, you have a ton of accomplishments after sports. And so just tell me a little bit about just, some of the challenges you face after sports and also some of the experiences you had that were life-changing.
Well, you bring up a good point. I had a lot of challenges. I did have a lot of self-motivation. I was very curious. I'm still very curious. But I also had a lot of ingenuity. I mean, I had to figure out, how to get from A to Z, right? But there was challenges because people want to put you in a box. And like, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in this. And that was always a struggle. I mean, I remember reaching out to people about business. I wanted to learn about restaurants, and they wouldn't tell me. you know, and I wanted to know about, you know, what if I remember I was at the Niners and I was well, let's go back. I was at the Oilers and I said, hey, you know, yeah, I like battling against Lawrence Taylor and Clay Matthews and stuff, but you know, I like what you do. I want to know about what you do in business, you know, because I love to be in the front office and see what I got to do that. And man, it was like I was cussing at him. I was like, wow, okay. So now I go to the Niners, and I remember asking, okay, so I'm not going to say the name of the person at the Niners, but I'll go to this person. I says, hey, I'm just finished my master's, and I really want to figure out what I need to do to be in the front office, and I think I can help. I understand the players, I understand, you know, our goals, and man, it was like, I never forget that. It was like, well, I don't know if there's any opportunities. You know, maybe there might be something with the ticket office. I was like, seriously, man? You know, I don't know anybody upstairs that even has a master's degree. So what, ticket office? So I said, okay, whatever, right? And so, but those are the things you have to deal with. You know, I remember when I retired, I was working on my doctorate. I'd go around and try to talk and say, you know, hey, you know, I'd love to work for your company, or what do I need to do? I could, and it was like on deaf ears, you know, and definitely when I got into film, definitely ran into brick walls. My point is, it's a hard pill to swallow. They don't return your phone call, and you show interest, and you're curious, and you're ready, and you got your briefcase, and you got all your stuff, and they're like, they don't hear you. You have to be willing to keep moving and understand that, you know, maybe that village didn't want you. But there's other villages, you know? So for me, I just had to go see a man about a horse, you know?
I think it can always be challenging, especially when, you know, you're considered superior, or you're considered, you know, extremely important in one field, and then you transition out, and they appreciate your highlights, but they don't appreciate your brain and your education and what you might be able to bring to a different field. And so,
well, also they some want you to kind of stay in this little box, right? Because they knew that I was cerebral. Because the players used to call me the resident sage, right? You know, I was always talking about higher level things. They knew that, but you know, maybe they didn't want the rest of the villagers to see that. I don't know.
I got you. What, when you think about you know, athletic leadership was, you know, you came into a university and you started an athletic program. Talk a little bit about just that experience, the lessons, and also, you know, just the experience in general.
Well, you know, among my colleagues and community, I kind of knew what was going on around me. That Tony Dungy was, when I was playing, he was assistant coach at Pittsburgh, and he always, everybody talked about he might be the first, you know, Black NFL coach, and he was trying for so many years. And then he finally gets one when people were turning down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And, you know, who turns down the NFL head coach job? They were, and then that's where Tony was given his opportunity. And when Bill Walsh told me that, you know, you should be in athletic administration, he was going to help me. He said, man, you'd be great. And then he, you know, passed away. So I continued to, you know, talk to people about that. And like I said, I got a lot of calls unreturned and really no follow-up and not knowing that, you know, I could help a lot of young athletes. So an opportunity comes up at the Academy of Art that I didn't see coming. I was actually working on directing my first feature film on a love story I wrote called Between Fire and Ice. And our funding got a little jacked up, and we were trying to retrench and get enough so we could start principal photography. And I get a call from the president or the assistant of the president of the Academy of Art, and said she wanted to have dinner, and I thought maybe she wanted to like get some autographs for a kid or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I finally go and meet with her in the city, and she talked about what the school, what its history, what they want to do, and that they wanted to start athletics. And I said, well, what do you want to do? You want to do intramurals? You want to do club sports? Mm-hmm. She said, no, I want to be like Cal or Stanford. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, okay, so why do you want to do that? She said, I want to beat somebody. Now, that got my interest, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, here's the plan. Here's what you want to, here's the reality. I said, you're not in a box, and how you're going to do this is not in a box, okay? I said, you're in a place that's perfect because you have the right components, the right materials to build a product. And you're in the Bay Area, in the city. We're the place where startups are grown on trees. Mm-hmm. And so this is the right answer for you. You just need a leader who has a clear vision and can pull people together and take them over that hill. It's that simple, because you have the resources, mm-hmm. and you have the motivation. You just need a person who's lived in the wild a little bit, mm-hmm. and mm-hmm. can go up there. And I thought she was just wanted me to consult and give her some information. Mm-hmm. And she says, and her next comment was, when can you start? So we have to be willing to do things like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to be willing to go where others won't go, mm-hmm. Take on challenges others won't. Mm-hmm. But you have to be studied, though. You have to have experience. You have to have had successes, smaller successes, mm-hmm. to go. It's like before you can go kill a dragon, you got to kill some ogres, and you got to kill some trolls, right? You got to do that first, mm-hmm. Before you get to the big boy. And so there's some things about what she had and what I knew that I know, mm-hmm. and I know my commitment, and I know how to set a goal. I know how to take a freaking hill. Okay, that I know how to do. And so I says, okay, but I know reality. I says, hey, nobody's going to back us on this. Mm-hmm. The NCAA don't want us. Mm-hmm. We're artists. Yeah. Nobody believes artists can slam dunk or hit home runs or spike a volleyball. Yeah. They don't believe that, but we know they can. So our job is to put this together, make them believe, get a team that believes, and create the right culture for success. And we go take them on. Mm-hmm. And I says, and understand that we're new to the market, so we're going to lose initially. Yeah. But as long as we focus on our internal capability, we got a chance. Uh-huh. And then we ended up winning a lot, for a group of artists, athletes. Now, that's the thing that I really would like young people to understand, of why you go and do other things. You enhance your internal capability. That's what makes you valuable. That's what makes you win in chaos. Mm. And when you run against the wind, if you have capability, the wind can't stop you. Absolutely. When you think about just that experience in general, I mean, you started a program. How many different sports did you all have at that university? We started with 14. So we had everything but aquatics and football. Now, if I'd have stayed there, I was going to start football. Oh yeah, I was already working it, man. But I had a chance to go back to my alma mater. So. Yeah. Well, that's a great story. Just to think about having that experience in general, just to be able to start a program at a art school, and then to have success. For the kids that still playing sports there, I bet they're thankful that you all got it started. Yeah, well, even bigger than that, the ones who've graduated, mm-hmm. they're working on Star Wars movies. Yeah. They're working at top ad agencies. They're in graphic design firms, and they're in television. And these kids, they'll send me emails like, Dr. Williams, thank you for starting. I would have had to go to the school and major in something else, right? Yeah. And I don't know. I think because of adversity. I mean, a lot of us grow up with some adversity, but that's what helps create your vision.
Mm-hmm.
That's what helps you look further.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if everything's given, if you don't have a rough road, it's hard to see things. You know, it's hard to be Indiana Jones, you know,
Yeah.
or Jason Bourne. You know, it's hard to do that. And so I have a lot of belief in, if you get yourself like let your dreams like have a dream. What is it you want to do, right? And then start working it. Start knocking out. Start karate kidding what you need to do, right? And know this, that there's many roads to Rome,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all crooked.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think young people need to hear that. They need people like yourself. They need people like myself to say it can be done.
That's right. That's exactly right. I completely agree with that statement, and that kind of transitioned me to the point of, you know, so the equity part. Now, my career has been spent in financial services, so an important part of our discussion too is just about managing money, your career, your family. You know, and when you think about the young people that are growing up today, you know, what experiences have you had that have been useful to you, that have helped you manage money, where you're able to, you know, pick lilies and do what you want to do post career? You know, because that's what I think most people aspire to do, just to be able to do what they want to do long term.
Well, obviously, there's things I wish I would have known ahead of time, because it was a new place, and you know, the reality is very few athletes are going to go where I went.
That's right.
You know, very few, but there are careers that can be just as dynamic financially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I know athletes like being in the arena. You know, they like to put themselves out there for the test, and I get that. But sometimes if God hasn't blessed you with some uniqueness, you know, it's hard to get through the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about the money part is that, you know, I would have every young guy take an economics class from the right economics teacher. Like, most of us like economics, oh man, why do we? But if they don't know what a free market system is, if they don't understand why that happened, you know, why trade is important, why Adam Smith's, you know, invisible hand, you know, still permeates, you know, around the globe, and what that significance is, and why people, why slavery was so bad for our country, because it was free labor. You're supposed to pay for it, right? And it's why we're getting products made in China and the East, because it's cheaper labor. You know, a lot of them need to sit down, and you need the right person that can teach them that. Because I'll tell you something, it took me a while before I really understood that. And I didn't realize that when I first came in the league, that when I made it, I didn't make it just for Jamie Williams. I made it for my family, my brothers, my mom. I made it for my cousins. I made it for my neighborhood. That's you know, and there were people. You know, it's like the Serengeti. You see the vultures and the storks and the dung beetles and all that sitting watching the carcass, right? And they all want a piece of it. Yeah. But you took down the beast. You're the lion that took down the beast. But they want a piece of that carcass.
That's right.
And you're not aware of how do you protect yourself from the hyenas and the storks and the buzzards, right? And I had to learn some things the hard way there. I mean, there was ways to take care of my siblings or cousins without going into the nest egg.
That's right. Yeah.
I could do it with the derivatives, right? And you know, fortunately, I was playing at a time when we were making crazy money. I mean, only people like Magic Johnson
Yeah.
Kareem, cats like that with them making big jumps. So it's obviously there's a lot of things I wish I could go back and do over, and of course, but time only pushes forward.
That's right.
And that's why you want the young kids to get a sense of it. Like, they don't have to be a financier like yourself, but they can if they want.
That's right. Yep.
But they need to know some people like you that they trust, that can educate them. And again, I'm going to say this: the one thing that I notice that gets athletes, if you just give it to them like basic, they don't freaking hear you. You got to tell them a story. You got to give it to them in a way that they can digest. You got to give it to a way that's relevant to them, and you got to do it in a way that they see value.
Yeah.
Because they all want to. They grew up with nothing. They want something. So how do you do that? How do you do that, and not kill the golden goose?
That's right. Yeah.
Let it lay eggs. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of them end up going and cutting the goose open, thinking they're going to get more eggs, and you're like, no, you got to take care of the goose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And keep making some golden eggs for you. So that was a tough thing for me, but I learned. If I didn't have some basic education, I'd have got swallowed up.
Yeah.
And I've made some mistakes in real estate. Made some mistakes in the stock market. Those things are going to happen, but basically, as you know, financial success is over the long run.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
The long
Not
game.
a short term. Yeah. So learning how to play that game, is key. And so, yeah.
But that's great to hear. I mean, I think a lot of people talk about their wins, but don't talk about their losses and their challenges. And having education, just like you just mentioned, or having the right people that you trust in your corner is very, very important.
Yes.
When you think about one thing that I had for us to talk about as well is just about diversity and inclusion. And when we talk about diversity and inclusion, what I mean is just making sure that we have more people have a seat at the table to learn about things that they might not have been taught growing up. And so you talked about Houston and how that had an impact on you. What other experiences have you had, and where do you see an opportunity to continue to have more diversity and inclusion?
Well, I will say that there I was blessed with mentors, both Black, white, male, female, that I was blessed to have, right? And those are the people that you don't have to pay to give you real quality information. And the whole goal is a sense of self, to obtain some self-awareness, know where your weaknesses are, know where your strengths are, know what you want to be, that you want to be. I mean, a lot of our kids don't understand that they're a snowflake. There's only one. There's only one Jeff. There's only one Jamie, and where does it go from there, right? But we still fit in certain categories, we're males.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. But we're also African-American males.
Yeah.
That's a different deal. And understand that has its challenges, but it's also good, in my opinion. And so, how do you surround yourself where you're that individual and you're not part of the herd? That's because the herd goes over the cliff.
That's right. Yep.
The individual navigates. And so, I just diversity's been a big part of me. I was blessed. I had this anecdotal experience from growing up in Iowa, but having cousins in Florida and going back to see my cousins every summer and hanging with them and listening to their broken English, going there and being in 7th grade and being able to do the homework of my cousins who were seniors in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going, how do you know this?
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts was, how do you not know this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the thing. That's the thing that education can do for you. But you got to understand that cultures are different, right? You know, that what does that mean? You know, and knowing enough about self when people are trying to put you in a box, you know, because of their lack of cultural awareness.
That's right. Yep.
Cultural competence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of us have dealt with onlyness.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you deal with onlyness? Being the only one, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to deal with that to get to where we're going, and making peace with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Making peace with that. I'm sure, you know, when you got into finance, you know, it wasn't a whole bunch of brothers sitting around, hey, man, you know, I'm in this apartment. You know what I'm saying? You had to cut your own path, but take that warrior path. It's okay because you can help others.
That's right.
Once you get through there,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very key. And again, I go back to this. I'm going to hone on this. Is that yes, you need to learn Black history, absolutely. You got to learn that, but you got to go beyond that. Understand this has all happened before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And so have that hope, have that pride. You keep going, and yeah, people may look at you one way, but you're that snowflake.
That's right. Yep.
Fight for the snowflake. Fight for that, and you'll be okay. But don't be part of the herd. You know.
That's right.
They don't get it. So.
Yeah, and I completely agree with it. Just your statement about being a part of the help and trying to make a change and then give back to those that need the help. You know, I think that's extremely important, especially if you're one of a few. You know, so it's about creating more opportunities and opening more doors for those that come after you.
Yeah, I would say this also from a diversity standpoint. You know, it's kind of that deal. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You know, know enough about yourself and your culture where you know you're ahead of the game. You should always play to be ahead of the game and not let other people define you. That's what bothers me to the end. And in athletic administration, that was part of my frustration. My frustration is that people who were culturally incompetent telling another culture this or telling them that. And I would always go in my office, I'd say, who told you that? That's fiction.
Yeah.
Where did you get that from? You know, the coach said what? The academic person said what? The life skills person said what? They put you in what class? I mean, that's real.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, we're in a capitalist country. So everything is, you know, kind of like, you know, we need to make profit. You know, we need to increase shareholder value. Well, that's in college too.
Yeah.
Sports, right? And so there should be. Now, if I'm a president or I'm talking to a president of college, it is your responsibility to make sure all your people are culturally competent and care, because you are not going to make no money. You know, if those two revenue sports, if you don't get high quality athletes there who believe in this stuff and graduate and go through, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So there's one other piece I want to share with you before we get to our final question. Because I have enough history behind me, I can look further ahead. You know, I had some time to do some more education. So in 1 week I finished my MBA.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. With a supply chain certification. Right. And And I'll tell you, I knew nothing about supply chain before I got in. I didn't technically know. Now I technically know. But now I'm like, oh, that's supply chain. Oh, that's supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when I went in the program, I've always been cognizant of this. And this is how sometimes you got to embrace the journey, embrace the pain. When I got my master's, I was the only African-American male or African-American in the program, in my cohort, okay? And I'm playing football on Sundays, okay? When I was in the doctorate program, I was the only black male. There's some sisters in there, but I was the only black male. And there was a couple of Africans, one from Jamaica, one from Nigeria, but they got their degrees and went back to their country. Okay, so when I got into this program, now remember I said when I was at Nebraska, I was the only African American in the broadcast journalism program. That onlyness, is that going to stop you? Now, of course, when I got through with the program, it was 7, 8 brothers and sisters that came into the program. You know, and so as I got into this MBA program, you know, I was like, okay, I want to see what's happening. You know, what's the makeup, what it is. You know, I got Jamie's playing, but you know, what's going on? You know, globally. Well, again, there was only a handful. We had some African students. We had a handful of African Americans, and I would always try to connect with them. Well, I was initially the only athlete, but then a couple of athletes came in, and most of them dropped out. And I reached out to the ones I knew about and said, I will help you. I will mentor you. I will give you advice on, you know, how to prepare for this accounting class or what, you know, things you should think about, right? And it was a little heartbreaking because, you know, a lot of them didn't finish the journey when the road got crooked.
Yeah.
And I just got voted myself and a kid, white kid from Texas as the top graduates of 2020. You know, just got voted that. And I'm sitting here going, all I did was put in the work, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of where, when you talk about diversity and inclusion, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Make peace with the pain. Run against the wind.
Yeah.
You know, because all you're doing is increasing your internal capability, and that's the thing that takes you to the finish line.
I appreciate that point. You know, I've appreciated just taking the time to kind of listen to a lot of your experiences and just your journey. And I think, you know, extremely high of what you said about, you know, just challenging yourself and not being, you know, I think there's periods in my life where and we talked about it on the phone, where you look around the table and you might be the only one. And that doesn't necessarily, that shouldn't deter you from pushing forward, because you can open up the door for more to come. And so one way I like to end this is kind of end it in a fun way with kind of 5 speed round questions. You know, I ask you quick questions and you kind of share the first thing that comes to mind. And
okay, before you do that, I got a message for your audience.
Okay.
You know, Jeff Marshall's the real freaking deal. And that's why I'm here, because when I heard about it, I'm like, oh my God, where's he been? You know, this is what you're doing is the right answer. And there should be a Jeff Marshall, you know, on the West Coast, and one in the North. What you're doing is awesome. I'm going to make sure people know about it, because what you're doing, if we have more of that, then we have a renaissance.
That's right. I appreciate that. I appreciate that statement. And what I'm doing, you know, is really for the people that are watching. It's the people that want to gain more information, want to gain more knowledge, want to sit at the table. And I'm being a sports fan. I hate to tell you my favorite team is the Redskins, but I have friends that are 49er fans and Houston Oilers fans, and I've been to Houston. And I think it's a great city as well. And so, you know, just having this conversation with you is is great for me and hopefully great for the people that got a chance to listen to it.
Yes.
So, I will go and ask you the question, and then we will end. And I appreciate you taking this time out. But 5 questions. So, favorite book?
Whoa. Herodotus.
Favorite movie?
Blade Runner.
Best NFL player you faced?
Lawrence Taylor.
Greatest accomplishment?
Getting my first college degree.
And best investment?
Family.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you, Dr. Williams. I appreciate your time. Again, I've taken an hour of your time, but it's been an hour well worth it. And thank you for joining Equity Partner. And I hope you have a great one.
Yeah, I will, and you'll have a better one.
All right. Thank you again. And we will talk soon.
Awesome.
All right. Take care.